Tuungane sote na tushereke pamoja ushindi kwa ukombozi wetu. Tujitoe wenyewe, tusimame pamoja kulinda uhuru na umoja wetu. Enyi Bwana na binti wa Afrika, mwili wa jua, mwili wa anga, tuifanye Afrika mti wa uzima. Tuungane sote tuimbe pamoja, kuenzi shikamano hatima yetu. Tujitoe wenyewe kupambana pamoja, uhuru na umoja vitawale. Enyi Bwana na binti wa Afrika, mwili wa jua, mwili wa anga, tuifanye Afrika mti wa uzima. Tuungane sote na tujibidishe kutoa kilicho bora kwa Afrika. Chimbuko la wanadamu, chemchemi ya utamaduni, tumaini letu wakati wa mafarakano. Enyi Bwana na binti wa Afrika, mwili wa jua, mwili wa anga, tuifanye Afrika mti wa uzima.
Hello and welcome. This is Humanist TV Africa. We are an online TV and we have studios in so many countries around the world. We have studios in Uganda, we have studios in Kenya, we have studios in Zambia, we have studios in the UK, we have studios in Nigeria. And I'm here today with Dr. Ikechi, who will be joining me with our topic, Global Food Security and Entrepreneurship Development in Sub-Saharan Africa, SSA. Like I said, this is Humanist TV. You can follow us on our YouTube, subscribe, like, and share. And also write us on our WhatsApp. You can subscribe on our YouTube, Facebook, and you can write us at info@humanisttvafrica.com. You can write us on our WhatsApp. Our communications officer is ready to communicate with you and address your issues. Our number is +254 747 356 767. Again, +254 747 356 767. You can write us, and so that we can, whatever issue you have, we are ready to communicate with you wherever you are in the world, because we are ready to establish our studios in other countries around the world. Today, like I said, I will be joined by Dr. Ikechi Aguba. Dr. Ikechi is a profound food and agroeconomics with wide experiences in marketing, business management, entrepreneurship, development, food and security. Food security, technology in agriculture, crop and livestock science, among other areas. He has intense experience in developing project proposals which has been delivered in South African communities and has also been part of the EU Horizon Funding, NUFFIC, ARC, and WRC, among other opportunities aligning with the SDG agendas of the United Nations. Dr. Ikechi has twice consulted for the United Nations under the International Organization for Migration, IOM, Connecting Diaspora for Development project focus on training, on Train the Trainers program spearheaded by the Hague office in the Netherlands. He successfully delivered his assignment at the Food Crop Production Technology Transfer Station in Nigeria and a Horticultural Research Institute, NIHOT, also in Nigeria. He earned PhD in agribusiness, food and agricultural marketing, and gained postdoctoral research experience on a smallholder development on collaborative studies between Agricultural Research Council, ARC, and University of Port Harcourt. As well as a NUFFIC project, which 3 South African universities, Limpopo, Venda, and Port Harcourt University, benefited. Moreover, Dr. Abuba is affiliated with a good number of educational institutions, particularly universities, not just in Africa, but in the UK, Europe, Asia, and America. Honorary Associate Professor at University of Birmingham, England. Casual academic at York St. John University, England. Adjunct graduate faculty at Tennessee State University, TSU. Mentor on new phases for farming at Rattled University College, Chelmsford, England. Visiting professor at Room Business School, RBSN. Honorary adjunct professor at Lovely Professional University, LEU. Senior lecturer at River State University, among others. Since 2003, he has been carrying out research on food and agricultural economics, agribusiness, food system studies, and development studies. He has also gained some experience as professor and pioneer coordinator for agribusiness management program, Cavalier International University, an online accelerated American accredited university. I'll be joined by Dr. Ikechi Agua, and we will talk about the global food security and entrepreneurship development in Sub-Saharan Africa. Doctor, you are welcome to Humanist TV Africa.
Thank you very much, Mr. Emmanuel Mambo. It's a pleasure.
Yes. What are some of the agricultural reforms that African countries, particularly Sub-Saharan Africa, that can adopt to enhance food security and also go hand in hand with increasing job creation?
Thank you very much for that question. And let me also thank the team, behind the scenes, those who are making things to happen. That question is quite interesting because when you look at some policies which have been, spearheaded and carried out by the governments of Africa, some of them are green revolution policies, land reform policies, among other policies. And I wish to reckon that the past leaders of African nations have tried. They had tried because it was not easy for them to face, civilization when those that colonized us came around to do what things and all of that. So anyway, now coming back to agriculture, we are blessed with agro resources, and the major farmers of Africa are smallholder based. And so I had mentioned that there were policies that, even up and running, they have been um, formulated, and but we needed them to be implemented also at the same time. Now, what are some of those policies? Policies that will favor food security, that will favor food systems, food and agricultural systems. And when we talk about food and agricultural systems, we are talking about production, processing, distribution, and consumption. So within that space of operation, within that scope of operation, there is need for policies. There's need for policy that will favor those who are directly working on the soil, those who are um, bringing out the crops, those in the seeding output. So we must identify every institution. So it's not just a government thing. Government is there for sure. Then what about the NGOs? What about civil society organizations? What about the private sectors? Now, sometimes we tend to compare each African country to another. Sometimes it's also, of course, we have various schools of thoughts that can look into that and say, no, you cannot compare. For instance, now you say you are comparing Nigeria to Rwanda. And when you know that Nigeria is a country that has over 290 million human beings, can you imagine that? And that has about 36 states, not about 36 states, and then one federal capital territory. And then you talk about Rwanda that is, if I'm not misquoting, maybe about 20 million or even less. Now, yes, so anyway, coming back to the policies that can favor food security, permit me to bring in the beautiful Southeast Asia country or Southeast Asian nations where my first international visits, and I began to see an economy that has prospered in the food and agriculture through their agriculture sector. And that's is Malaysia, Indonesia, those countries, Philippines, and all of that. Now, at least they have done well. And there was a time they came to Africa and borrowed our, oil palm seedlings, and they borrowed not just oil palm seedlings, they actually borrowed, because when I was there, I saw okra, that fruit vegetable, or ladies' fingers, the botanical name is Abelmoscus esculentus. And now, why am I talking about the policies that they have, they are spearheading, they are enforcing? My reasons were clear when I was invited by my president's TV station recently, because I was invited twice, and I was asked to critique the budget that he came up with, the budget of for 2024. And my reasons were clear. I told the TV station that my um, my opinion hinged on what the Southeast Asian tigers did. And let me just outline it very shortly because I know I've already spent some time. So a breakdown of the model, which their approach was an institutional quality for competitiveness approach. And that revolved around social, economic, administrative, and political streams. And on the side of the administrative stream, they looked at some policies that touched on quality, that is vocational educational systems, which of course I had mentioned about the brain reengineering strategy which I developed. With some of my team members across Africa and even outside. So and that brain reengineering aligns with this administrative stream because in fact it aligns with the entire stream because it's quite holistic and all that. It's not just an educational strategy, it's also a policy initiative which we are talking about. Now, streamlining to effective bureaucratic system, which of course that was also highlighted. And then from the perspective of social stream, they focused on interracial, ethnic, cultural harmony, interreligious harmony, cultural diversity literacy. Now, when you look at African nations, some African nations like Nigeria, which is referred to as the giant of Africa, and incidentally, I am Nigerian, but I am African. Actually, of course, I'm a Pan-Africanist, and you will even, get to, you know, understand that when you look at some of my engagements, and that is even why I'm talking about these issues that touches on understanding Africa, understanding that we are multiracial, multi-ethnic, everything is multilingual, multi, you know, everything is multi. So now we need to understand this. So that was how they were able to approach it. Indonesia. Indonesia is records as the highest producer of palm oil and oil palm products today. Now, on the side of economic stream, they looked at strong intellectual property rights regime, harmonious regulatory regimes, open and outward looking trade policy, which are also highlighted. And we know we are in an era of the fourth industrial revolution. And of course, the free trade area agreements of the African Union is also very important. And no stone must be left unturned because we are working with the African Union on some of these policies. Yes, it's true that I am also a diaspora leader and I am the research and innovation director for African Diaspora Collective, North and South America. So what we are doing is that we are working very assiduously with different educational institutions across Africa and outside. And some of the places where we have African descents, even in the Caribbean now. But of course, I'm working with Ambassador Davisha on that, who is the ambassador of the US to Africa. And of course, finally, can I state that on the political stream, political transparency, strong corruption control is very important. Meritocratic politics, as well as open and transparent policy and law making initiatives are also highlighted. So that's the point I can make about that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Doctor. Technology has played a major role in some of the key sectors of the world economy. How can it be employed in agriculture, particularly in enhancing food security?
Yeah, that question is quite interesting again. Thank you for that. And can I say that technology is a game changer? Technology has come to change the game in many things, not just in the agriculture space. And yeah, about technology, the issues about technology, the pros are so much because, of course, it's a driver of sustainability to an extent. Because I was speaking with a professor sometime, and we were talking about sustainability and technology and sustainability. And he was of the opinion that technology does not really ensure sustainability. So, but as we were arguing, it wasn't like an argument, but by the time I stated some things to him, he said, anyway, at some point it does, and at some point it spoils things. Well, like I said, it depends on how it is approached. Now we are yearning for technology in Africa, for Africa. It's very good. Africa, we must, work with technology. But what some of our leaders, do not know. I was in a recent meeting with, in a meeting recently with a minister for science and technology of a country. I wouldn't mention the name. So when I was with him, he was telling me something about his trip, and he was saying, if we can bring people from Europe and come to the country, and I told him, yes, that is also good. Bringing in sophisticated technology is nice. It sounds good, but it has its own ripple effects. It has its own adverse effects if we are not careful, because it's just like trying to, give a baby solid food when the baby is still feeding on breast milk. You need to ensure that the baby, takes the mother's milk, not even another person's milk altogether, but the mother. What am I trying to say by saying that, the issues about technology? Now, I would have started to define technology and, started to talk about more about the fourth industrial revolution, which offers us a lot of diverse technology options for for us to see where we can leverage and where we can propose for governments to bring in drones, to bring in Internet of Things, to bring in artificial intelligence, to bring in blockchain, and to bring in, of course, to unlock tractorization, which has also been, being used, which has also been in operation in many African countries, even though we've not had enough tractors as we are supposed to have. Yeah, having a lot of Africans in developed nations driving change, but unfortunately, the food supply systems are still broken. The food value chains are not well structured, but let's say that it's still in building. In fact, that is even part of the reasons that I am, I always talk about. So, there was a training I attended. I just came in 2 days ago from the training in Manchester, in England, and that training, and I met with people on technology, and we were discussing about technology and all of that, because technology is important, is very good. But now for Africa, what about our indigenous technology? What has happened to our indigenous technology? We need to encourage our indigenous technology. That is part of the reasons why, even in Zambia, even there in Uganda, even in Kenya, I have a lot of links with them. I don't know if they are watching this, but even in Makerere University, and yeah, some of my contacts in the US even came to meet with the Uganda government. They are trying to build up the infrastructure base of Uganda in East Africa. So they started with Uganda, first of all, to try it out. And they are looking at medical infrastructure and other infrastructures, sorry. Yeah. So now, the brain engineering strategy, permit me to talk about the brain engineering strategy. I would have shared my slides, but I may not go into that because of time. Now, I'm an advocate member of the European Technology Chamber. And what we do in that chamber as an advocate member is that we look at, of course, I'm a member of the African Alliance, which with Food, Farming and Fisheries Alliance. And we look at communities that will need some technology options so that we can match them with some European companies for them to bring in some intervention. And then we are also trying to say that this is not like a pathway or an arrangement to bring about recolonization. No, no, not that. So don't have that bias that we are still trying to bring them back. No. But we also tell them, if you look at some of the nuggets or some of the quotes which they have even published, my quotes, and my picture is on the quotes. One of them is aligns with what we are talking about, technology, and that is, we don't they cannot force sophisticated technology on our people because it may not be sustainable, it may not last. But there are some places where we can still bring in those sophisticated technology, like even in irrigation, because of course, Africa has always, African farmers have always depended on rain-fed agriculture because of cost and all of that. And government has not encouraged agriculture. So that was why I had to start laying, that foundation with what I had, mentioned about the policy issues, because policy is very, very necessary. So now, what, uh, you know, so we need to identify the technology um, um, options that are indigenous and look at the aspects of production, those in processing, those even in distribution as well, and see where we can improve it, where we can just inject some help, where we can inject some assistance. So that is, what I can say. It's not a hard thing, but we need to work hard. We need to identify with some of where the people are, each of the country, and sometimes, Africa, the countries in sub-Saharan Africa, there are the countries around the equator are hotter, like East Africa and West Africa, they're around the equator, but countries that are below, they are a bit subtropical, or a bit of subtemperate. So they are not all the same. So we need to understand some of those things. And what again? I wanted to say something, but maybe I'll say it again later on. But it's that point I wanted to say is quite vital. Thank
All
you.
right. Yeah, I'm talking about this. The African Union declared 2014 as the year of agriculture and food security, following the Maputo Declaration of 2003, where African countries decided to devote 10% of their national budget towards agriculture. That is now 21 years. What are the issues or causes that are affecting some of these African countries?
I think in the course of my speaking, I've already mentioned some of them. The issues
Yeah.
are, I I don't like to blame the government, but government is part of it, because government sets the pace. Government is influential. Government tries to bring to, like, is like a fulcrum. Is it a fulcrum? Their roles are pivotal. Their roles are centralized. They are at the epicenter of things. Let me use that word. So how will they be able to organize their nation? And how will, like, so I think it's time that we become more intentional so that we'll be able to actualize the dreams. Now, I talked about the brain engineering strategy. The brain engineering strategy is a model which I created, and it has already been licensed. I have the copyright backing from the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C. And I know so many people do not know this. People who have, seen the first drafts I did, and I started with trying to paint a story from my upbringing, and in the university environment where I grew up in Nigeria. Um, it was quite interesting times when people can, in fact, I can even tell you that for many sets at the university, Nigeria secondary school, that Nobody goes in to study agriculture, but I went out. It was a decision that I made, that and see where I am today. So, and it wasn't easy. We paid the price. We broke the ground for many others. Many people are coming to study agriculture, but those times, but these days, you see, people are not paying, giving us, pats on the back for what we are doing in the agriculture space, helping out people. So it's still part of, responding to your question, because youths are not even interested. That's part of the issues. You know, how are the governments? How are they trying to make agriculture sexy for young people, making it palatable? Even while I was living in South Africa, I saw a lot. I saw how the government are trying hard to make them to be interested in agriculture. And even up till now, and I'm still in touch with South Africa. Some of my students are doing well. Some are even professors now. I'm telling you, the people I taught, the people we work together. And yeah, so the issues about policy, those policy issues are not followed up. We are not organized. But can I give kudos to some African countries that are actually making some efforts in ensuring that that declaration is not watered down, is not brought down back. So, can I give kudos to those countries? They are all we all love those countries in Sub-Saharan Africa. I mentioned South Africa, even though some issues South Africa is still shaking. Yeah, but we know about Rwanda. I was in Rwanda for the very first time last year because I co-founded an initiative with some persons, and we of course we work with educational institutions. Even University of Rwanda, we got an MOU with them, with that organization, and I'll be in Rwanda again soon for the International Conference on Business Models in Agriculture. So all that we are doing is to bring in the entire stakeholders, not just the government. It has to be a stakeholder thing. So these people from this place come, these leaders from here, so that we can have a joint work and not just talking the walk, but walking the talk. That is where we are, trying to bridge the gap between research and industry. That is where we are. And that is what we are. And that is where we stand. And I wish to give kudos to people like Lumumba and Arikana, Dr. Arikana, Professor Lumumba. I know I'm in the same platform with them on WhatsApp and all of that. We are changing the game. We are not looking back. Anytime we are invited to speak, we will speak out clearly and tell and say, this is how it is, and this is how it must, and we must follow it up. And we are trying. So we need to start the entire sector. We need to inject some approach, especially with young people. How are we making young people understand that agriculture is not just a sector? Agriculture is a system. Yes, is a system, and agricultural systems is very broad. Every other sector depends on that system. Thank you.
Yeah, the private, I mean, the development of the private sector in Sub-Saharan Africa is of crucial importance to the overall rate of economic growth of the region. Entrepreneurial firms have a prominent role in the private sector in many countries in the region. What are the entrepreneurial firms' performance in the Sub-Saharan Africa?
Thank you very much. What can I say now about that? I'm just trying to think now, but because when you talk about entrepreneurship has not really it doesn't really hold water in Africa. It's one of the productive resources we know about: land, capital, um, labor, and then entrepreneurship, which of course drives the other factors of production. And permit me to talk about, when we talk about Sub-Saharan Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa is actually all African countries that are not in Northern Africa. So that's Sub-Saharan Africa. And the Northern African countries, of course, are Libya, Egypt, Morocco, Tunisia, and Algeria. So every other country outside of these five countries are Sub-Saharan African countries. Now, there have been a downward trend. To be sincere with you, there has been a downward trend, and investment in infrastructure projects with private sector participation in Sub-Saharan Africa has fallen. It has fallen, fallen from about 15 billion dollars in 2012 to about $5 billion in 2019. And when you look at you know, the values, yeah, when you look at the values and look at the aspects, maybe the private participation and infrastructure projects database by World Bank, you will begin to see some of the figures are quite disturbing. So, and then of course the IMF growth projection for Sub-Saharan Africa has also indicated in 2021 4.5%. That is Organization per Africa. And in 2022, it was 3.8%, and last year was 4. So you see how it has after this. This is just after COVID. And now, you talked about how entrepreneurship and all of it, they are connected, because when we talk about creativity, innovation, it's not lacking in Africa, but there has to be improvement. Innovation has to find its way in driving transformation in Africa through the activities, through the sectors, maybe formal sector, informal sector. And we have um, enough that we are doing, enough that we are used to. We have enough indigenous companies. I was talking about the technologies that we already have, those indigenous technologies that we have. Now, the economic recovery in Sub-Saharan Africa surprised, on the upside in the second half of 2021. And of course, that prompted a significant upward revision in 2022. Estimated growth from 3.7 to 4.5, which I had mentioned. And then, of course, in 2023, however, that progress has been jeopardized by the Russian invasion. We saw about the Russia-Ukraine crisis, which triggered the global economic holocaust, global economic shock, if you will allow me to use that easier word. Yeah, of course that hit the region, hit Sub-Saharan Africa. At that time, when the policy space to respond to it became minimal and non-existent. So most notably, and surging oil and food prices are even straining the external and fiscal balances of commodity importing countries, and have also increased food security concerns in the region. So, and yeah, so looking beyond the pandemic and the current geopolitical tensions, job creation, that is where we are driving at, because entrepreneurship must be ensured. That is when people, of course, the agriculture space. food security is the space that creates more jobs than any other sector. So if it is well handled properly, there will be lots of jobs. Come to think of it, if the production aspect of food systems are on point, lots of young people will want to come in. If they want to come in because you know, of course, they love technology also. And I had spoken that a more scientific and technology driven agriculture will attract them because they love technology. They love to practice agriculture with their phones, with their handsets. And I must also give kudos to East Africa and Kenya in particular for spearheading M-Pesa, which is that fintech, which the fastest growing fintech in the whole world. Can you imagine that? And then I had talked about how looking beyond the pandemic and and the current geopolitical tensions, job creation and meeting of the SDG goals, and of course that will require strong, inclusive and sustainable growth in the region. So to this very end, decisive policy is needed to enhance that entrepreneurial will I call it a diversification or innovativeness? And of course, unleash private sector potential also and address the challenges posed, of course, climate change issues, so interestingly, the World Bank projections they have also stated that the largest growth in Sub-Saharan Africa in 2024, do I surprise you, will be in West Africa.
Okay.
In West Africa. So for now, the largest growth in Sub-Saharan Africa is Niger. Then for Senegal, that was last year, and then Rwanda, then of course DRC, and then Cote d'Ivoire, then Ethiopia, then Benin, Uganda, Guinea-Bissau, Tanzania, Liberia. Then where is Nigeria? So you can imagine. So anyway, but now the projection has already been made that in 2024, and we've just entered February, and we are still waiting for that prophecy, which of course the World Bank has set the pace, telling us that this is the West Africa is the will soon be announced as the latest emerging economy of Africa, taking over from East Africa. Thank you.
Wow. 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 Talking about entrepreneurship, I would want to ask, how can we achieve financial stability and entrepreneurship development in the Sub-Saharan state?
Thank you for that question. I think I had talked about entrepreneurship. Okay. There was a time I was teaching entrepreneurship development and agricultural finance also to 400 level students in my university. And I used to take time to teach them entrepreneurship development because I noticed that that aspect of, that factor of production is what can make them to influence change, because young people, they are the future. We've carried out researches, even while I consulted for the UN, and even the high level panel of experts also, they had come up with their findings that young people, their importance in driving change in food systems cannot be overemphasized. Now, entrepreneurship, can I say that entrepreneurship is the driving force? It can be the driving force. It is actually the driving force of African economies. By nurturing an entrepreneurial mindset among youths Africa can harness its demographic dividend. I'm telling you, it can also foster innovation. I had mentioned this about innovation and, of course, create jobs and address the pressing challenges. The pressing challenges. Entrepreneurship, of course, is, you know, is can be said that it's the ability and readiness to develop, organize, and run a business enterprise, along with any of its uncertainties in order to make a profit. The most prominent example of entrepreneurship is starting a new business. Simple. Now, traditionally, the four main types of entrepreneur, because I have to take time to mention this, because even the brain engineering strategy, which I developed, which stands on 5 pillars as at now, very soon it will have 6 pillars because I love the number 6. And I've found the 6th pillar, but I've not yet unveiled it. But I've unveiled the 5th one. The first one is perception change or altering of perceptions. Then the second one is ideation and entrepreneurship. So that is why I had to stop and cite myself, because like I told you, my sojourn in the agriculture space is quite mysterious. It's a mystery which even myself sometimes I don't really understand myself and my passion about agriculture. I just my prayer is that people who are supposed to find me will find me early. Otherwise, I will grow old and people, I will waste away without influencing the right people I'm supposed to influence. Some people know me, they know what I carry, they know what that I am not saying it because it is me. I'm telling you what is like I said, it is still a mystery to me about me. Let me just say that. I can tell you a lot of stories about my upbringing, and you'll be like, wow, wow, wow. But that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is what am I doing in order to influence change? So the brain engineering strategy, the third aspect is amalgamation of technologies. That is integrating technology solutions. I've mentioned it before, and sustainability also comes in, and also circular economy. We are talking about circular economy, circularity, ensuring circular economy, because we need to save our world. So every solution must have an ecological aspect. It must be economic. It must also be um, okay. I've mentioned environmental friendly. It has to be economic. Environmental friendly has to do with ecology. And also, it must have equity. That takes us to the last pillar for now, social equity in public policy. So, traditionally, the four main types of entrepreneurship are small business entrepreneurship, scalable startup entrepreneurship, large company entrepreneurship, and social entrepreneurship. So, some of these types of entrepreneurship, we need to know them, and we need to know which one can be simulated. So, um, recently, there have been a rise in optimism with regards to the sustainable economic prospects in Sub-Saharan Africa through innovation. And we've also had, findings. We've carried out researches and we have seen that in Sub-Saharan Africa, firms in Sub-Saharan Africa, they have always emphasized on the process of innovation, market performance of new products, and labor market impact also on new products. And um, we have all also suggested to them, suggested or rather recommended in policy that firm product innovations can offer unique opportunities to resolve key socioeconomic challenges. And we know socioeconomic challenges are issues that touches on, job, you know them. Those socioeconomic issues must be tops, must be arrested. And such as creating of jobs. Competitiveness. Of course, Africa faces a lot of things today. Every issue impacts on Africa. War affects Africa. Poverty affects Africa. Um, Poor infrastructure, climate change affects Africa. Breakout in pandemic affects Africa. What has not affected Africa? Everything is affecting Africa. And the farmers also, who are at the epicenter, those who are producing food, they are not being taken care of. So it's not a good thing that the people in agriculture, people who are practicing agriculture, are not taken care of. Why? Why are we not taking care of them? Why are we not having a good organization, bringing people, changers, change makers, people who can influence change? So, and um, the findings from some of these proposition or recommendation that I'm making, they are valid. I'm telling you, they are valid in being uh, proposed. Let me use that word. Now, coming back to, I think you asked something about, is it firm something?
Yeah, our financial stability and entrepreneurship development.
Okay, beautiful. Financial stability. And I think you mentioned about firm performance also, which I had also mentioned. Some of these things I had mentioned them. And when you look at some countries, of course, there are some World Bank findings which have been done, but I just selected Angola, Burundi, Cameroon, Congo, and DRC, and Ethiopia, Guinea, Kenya, and Lesotho, Malawi, Mozambique, Namibia, Uganda, and Zambia. Looking at the hours of outage, you know what outage is? That's when power fails. Yeah, so we've been experiencing a lot of power, and you will see that the highest country for power outage is Congo, followed up by Angola, followed up by Guinea, and then Uganda. And we're talking about clean and renewable energy solution. And the same clean and renewable energy solution came from where? From agriculture. But how many of our countries, how many of us are promoting it? If everybody wants to do projects, but how many people deliver at the end of the day? Project is important, but we also need to deliver those projects. Now, finally, there is this regional finding also, which um, we were looking at Sub-Saharan Africa and doing business. Yeah, doing business um, analysis. Let me use that word. Now, coming back to the core queries, your core question. Now, the average number of reforms per economy is highest in South Asia, but the average impact is biggest in Sub-Saharan Africa. So we must know that. We must know that. So in Sub-Saharan Africa, you see that the impact of reforms come on Africa. Like I had mentioned, Africa is so blessed with agricultural resources, both from the crops, from the livestock, fisheries, and forestry. We are so blessed. Like I mentioned about young people, you know what has also spoiled the issues about young people and even the financial issues we are talking about? How can it be um, encouraged? How can we have some financial intervention? It is not hard as far as I'm concerned. It's not hard. Of course, there are many organizations that are ready to fund this and fund that, provided it is followed up rightly. But how many of the smallholder farmers, at the end of the day, how many of them received those interventions? How many of them, their livelihood, their scope is improved on? So in those days in school, when a child, fails to do something, or maybe violates, or disobeys, do you know the punishment they give them? They give them an agricultural punishment to go and weed the farm and all of that. What does that do? It has killed the child from agriculture and every other thing you are saying. So even to ensure that there is, money coming in. Now, when we are talking of money, those who practice agriculture after production, they are still made to pay a lot. And there are smallholder farmers, majorly about between 60 and 70 percent of smallholder farmers, African smallholder farmers African farmers are smallholder farmers. Yes. So how can we not come into their concerns, even in the logistics as well? Because we have logistics in agriculture, we have processing that can also unlock jobs, value addition. Why can't we add value to agricultural crops? Why must we allow it to come here in Europe before they will put all the sugars and put it in the right form, add all the colors? And that is the issue of entrepreneurship that we're talking about. And in so doing, we can now unlock financial opening for agriculture. Yeah. So there are ways to approach these things. We need people who are knowledgeable, people who understand the system, the food and agriculture systems. Otherwise, we will be wasting our time. Now, do we even have a system of mentoring young people? That's why any time I have with the young people, I don't look back. Young people are very important. Encouraging them. It's not easy to work with young people, but you have to. You have to work with them. You cannot give what you don't have. It's just like a mother who has given birth. The mother has to stay and take care of that baby. It is we. I don't know what our world is turning into. Why are we not, you know, doing what we are supposed to do to get, you know, the right results? Young people are running to America. Their economy is better. Some people made it that way. Some people came up together and made it that way. We can also come together as Africans and make it that way. But sadly, Africans hate themselves. We don't love ourselves. We see Asians, how they're running around each other, how they are, they cover each other's backs. And it's playing out in what we are talking out today. It plays out all the time. We cannot run away from it. I overheard somebody that came back from COP 28, and I overheard what the person was saying. And the person said, "Oh, I came to this place and I saw this set of people. I wouldn't mention names, but it's an African thing." He said, and you need to see the words that the person was using on Africa. And we are all African. He said the whole thing is so the person had to go to another stand where he would get to see the the white skinned people. And so the issue of food, we have food, yet we don't have food, is an aberration. We are waiting to receive aid. We are waiting to receive help. When we have the help that we have, we have not started to celebrate ourselves yet. I wonder when that will happen. But I'm still giving kudos to some economies I had mentioned before. I didn't even mention Ghana. Yes, even though they are small compared to the country where I come from in Nigeria, which is Nigeria. Yeah. And yeah, but I love to work with young people because I see a lot of giants. I see dynamites in them. I see emerging leaders. And when I talk to them, when we were in Rwanda, there is this young guy from Cameroon who made me proud. When he was speaking, he didn't look at any paper like most of us in the academia. He was just vibrating. You need to hear him out. And I stood up and I was cheering him, and he was very happy. We need people like that. We need people who are not just talking the walk, but walking the talk. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ikechi Aguba. Today, our topic was global food security and entrepreneurship development in Sub-Saharan Africa. I'm very, very much happy to host you, and we will get back to you again for a subsequent episode of this same food security and entrepreneurship development in Africa. Thank you for having you today, Doctor.
You are welcome, Emmanuel. Thank you.
Yeah, and this is Humanist TV Africa, and we end our show here today. We are asking that you subscribe to our YouTube channel. You follow us on our YouTube channel at Humanist TV Africa and our Facebook, and you can write us, ask us questions, and also if you want to be part of Humanist TV Africa, we are very delighted to host you at any time you have issues. You can call us on our WhatsApp number, which is +254 747 356 767. You can also write us, and our communications officer is always ready to talk to you and address issues about whatever in your community, country, and region. Thank you, Doctor, today, and we say bye-bye for today.